Andy Brungard is going to be bringing the message here in a moment. I just want to say a few words about Andy. Some of you may not know him. Most of you do. If you've got children in the Perrysburg Elementary School system, you probably know about Mr. Brungard. If you've got students who play football with the high school team, they know Coach Brungard. Around here, we know him as our staff member for high school students, directing our high school ministry. Andy and Tracy came to Grace about 5.5, 6 years ago, and shortly thereafter began working with our youth ministry, kind of on a volunteer basis first, and then we made a triumvirate of youth team leaders with Cindy Crock, Robin Mitchell, and Andy being the team that leads our junior high, senior high, our mission trips and retreats. So Andy wears many hats. What he does here is not his day job. His day job is to be an elementary school teacher at Fort Meigs. He's a husband to Tracy, of course. He's a father to Porter and Blaine. Porter's 5 years old and Blaine is 3. To work with youth, especially as effectively as Andy does, it takes many qualities. It takes patience and endurance, of course, stamina. But it takes being young at heart yourself. It takes being willing to be a little bit silly and goofy at times. Andy can do that very well. It takes relating to the youth in a way that they can connect with, but it also takes letting them know that you are the adult in charge, that you are there to lead as well as to play. And Andy does that in such a wonderful way. He is wise, he's mature, he's a leader. And he is a leader in the classroom, on the football field, here in the Family Life Center throughout the church. You know, when you go to really assess whether someone's faith is real or not, it's been said that there are two things you can look at. You can look at their calendar and you can look at their checkbook. Because how we spend our time shows our priorities, how we use our resources and our finances show our priorities. And for Andy, although he is extremely busy teaching school, coaching, all the time that requires in season and off season, working here in youth ministry, plus being a husband and a father at home. That's a lot of time, a lot of things to do. But Andy and Tracy still find time to make church a priority, to be here for worship, to be a part of a small group, to lead a small group. And that shows that his faith is not something he just talks about, but it's something that he lives out. And also I can share, I don't want to make Andy uncomfortable with this, but you know, it's just a fact. Our stewardship reveals the state of our spiritual life. And for Andy and Tracy, they are in the top 20 givers in all of this church, which puts them in 5 figures that they give out of their faithful response to God's graciousness to them. That speaks volumes about their willingness to put their money where their mouth is, and as they walk the talk and live the life of the Christian faith. Now, I don't want you to think Andy's perfect. He's a Steeler fan. What can I say? I had to work hard to overcome that. And I hope staying up and watching the Steelers last night won't diminish your ability to be up here and speak this morning.
The loss may have, but not watching them. Yeah.
We're delighted to know Andy. We're delighted that from time to time he can bring a message not just to the youth group, but to all of us. Would you pray with me, please? Lord, I know that you have been speaking to Andy. I pray that you would speak through him to each of us. Convey, communicate your message for this new year to us through Andy this morning. Amen.
Amen. I said this morning, and I'll say it again, that was some of the nicest things that somebody's ever said about me. And again, I wish my wife was here to hear them. Blaine is home sick, so she could not be here. But I'll just go home and preach it to her again when I get home. I wanted to start by reading from Proverbs. This is Proverbs chapter 1, verses 1 through 6. This is Solomon speaking, and it's titled Wisdom for Young People. And it says the purpose of Proverbs. These are the Proverbs of Solomon, David's son, king of Israel. Their purpose is to teach people wisdom and discipline, to help them understand the insights of the wise. The purpose is to teach people to live disciplined and successful lives, to help them do what is right, just, and fair. These Proverbs will give insight to the simple, knowledge and discernment to the young. Let the wise listen to these Proverbs and become even wiser. Let those with understanding receive guidance. By exploring the meaning of these Proverbs and parables, the words of the wise and their riddles. You know, Dennis listed the many hats that I wear in this community, and I'm very blessed to wear them all. And one thing that I get a lot is I'm asked for advice. I'm asked for, what do you think about this? Or how should I do this? Or, and I really enjoy being in those conversations with people. It's something that I truly cherish. And my wife refers to it as a popular line from the 80s movie Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, that I'm a chatty Cathy doll, but I can keep pulling my own string. God's placed me in these positions that I get to work with people and talk with people and talk about the situations that are in, and I love helping and giving advice. And I was thinking as I prepare for this, over the past week, I sat with a young man, and I helped him decide where he's going to go to college. I talked to someone else about how to discipline a child. Another person on how to heal a broken relationship. I talked to a distant relative on what the future holds in our lives. And these are some of the biggest blessings that I have. But sometimes I don't give the right advice. Sometimes I give my advice. And of course, I think my advice is good. It's not always the right advice. It's not always the best advice. God's advice is the best advice. And his advice goes well beyond mine. And I can tell you that is the truth because of my life, because the things that I've done throughout my life to this point. I've made some decisions that to the world or to those who aren't Christians or don't follow God seem dumb, but have been some of the biggest blessings to my soul and to my family. I have also made some decisions that Proverbs refer to these people as simpletons, which are people that have a character deficiency. I'll list some of my own: laziness, anger, and sometimes unable to know the difference between right and wrong. And I can tell you, when I've acted as a simpleton, the results make me seem pretty simple. And when I've acted in ways that seem dumb to the world, I've been truly blessed by God. And it's that time that we sit back at the end of the year and we look over a year and we think, what do I want to change in my life? Or what do I want to do different? Or where can I improve myself? And I as well did that too. But I think it's essential, it's important that we sit and think, what does God want me to do in my life? What does God want me to do daily? How does God want me to improve or change the things that I'm doing in my life? So here's Solomon. Solomon is the author of Proverbs. He's the wisest man that's ever lived, where he conveyed his and God's knowledge. And Proverbs, I think it's important to remember this as we read this, it's a short, concise sentence that conveys moral truth. A short, concise sentence that conveys moral truth. And also, before we dive in, there is a difference. Knowledge. Knowledge is having the facts. Knowledge could be knowing what God's word is. Wisdom is applying those facts to your life. Wisdom is taking what you know and living it. And this is Proverbs, and it's titled Wisdom Shouts in the Streets. This is Proverbs. I'm going to read from 20 to 25 and then skipping down to 32 and 33. It says, Wisdom shouts in the streets. She cries out in the public square. She calls to the crowds along the main street, to those gathered in front of the city gate. How long, you simpletons, will you insist on being simple-minded? How long will you mockers relish your mocking? How long will you fools hate knowledge? Come and listen to my counsel. I'll share my heart with you and make you wise. And then skipping down to verse 32. For simpletons turn away from me to death. Fools are destroyed by their own complacency. But all who listen to me live in peace, untroubled, by fear of harm. Wisdom is shouting. It says wisdom is shouting. This is an excellent personification. It makes it seem alive. And the reality is that it is alive. I mean, wisdom is God's mind revealed to us. Wisdom is the earthly life of Jesus Christ. That's what wisdom is. And we are called to strive to live like Christ, to be a representative, to be a model of who he was. When we read about his actions, his parables, his teachings, and all of those things, that is wisdom shouting to us. The word is alive. Christ lives in heaven, and we are called to live in those ways. You know, it also refers to a simpleton. It says simpletons turn away. Simpletons are someone with a character flaw or someone that has too much pride. And if we want advice, we need to put our pride aside. You know, we need to set aside that what I do is always right, but begin to look at what God says and does is always right. You know, I probably share this too much, and it happened to me about 3 years ago. I had a tumor. It really was not a big deal in the grand scheme of things between watching my dad have a battle with cancer and recently watching my aunt lose her battle with cancer. I mean, they went through some courageous and challenging moments in their lives as they went through that battle, and I did not face any of that. But there's a moment when you sit in the doctor's office, you know, and they say there's a hard lump. We don't know if it's benign. We're not sure what it is, but it's definitely a tumor, where your mind begins to panic, where you kind of freak for a minute and you think, what is it? You know, and you assume the worst. And I immediately went to my iPhone, to Google, to my wife, and then later to God. Luckily, it only took me about 15 minutes to get to the God point. But, you know, I went first to myself. I can handle this. I will solve this. I went to Google. Google will help me take care of this problem. And do not click on images for Google when you search for tumors. It's the most disgusting thing ever. No, seriously. But I turned to God last. You know, I wasn't willing at first to put my pride aside. I wasn't willing to say, God, this is your plan. You're in control, and you know better than me. I was more willing to say, I'm going to handle this problem. And if I would have continued on that path, I know it truly would have been a struggle. You know, and I refer to this because sometimes teenagers come up to me and they say, I'm going through this really hard time. What should I read in the Bible? Where should I pick it up and start reading? And my honest response is, you should be reading before these hard times come. You know, a lot of times we just want to pick it up and say, all right, God's going to talk to me right now, and this is what he has to say. Flip it open. That didn't really apply. I'll try again. You know, sometimes that happens. But the honest truth, guys, is this is shouting to us wisdom. God's mind is revealed to us by reading about Christ's life on earth and how he lived his life and how he calls us to live our lives. And we should be reading this before troubles come, so that when troubles do come, we don't even notice those things as a problem or as a challenge or as trouble. I'd like to call up Connor Treese. You know, I said one of the blessings of sitting around and talking with people. I think Connor and Bartek and I, who's also going to talk today, sat at Cafe Marie's until they told us, the chefs are leaving and we need you to go home. Connor Treese ate a lot of carbs yesterday, so he is jacked up and ready for this. I had two young men from the youth I want to come up and speak. These are truly young men that I admire, that on a regular basis are facing problems that Proverbs talks about, that are facing challenges in their everyday lives. And I just wanted to give them an opportunity to share kind of what they go through.
Hello, check. Good? All right. So like Andy said, I've been going to the youth group here for about 2 years. And about 2 years ago, I was invited by a friend. I had a lot of friends that went to youth group and stuff. So I'd been going to church and stuff, but I felt like there was something I was lacking. There was something more that I needed. So I came to youth group, and I remember I was talking to Andy afterwards, and I was like, "Oh, thank you so much for like having this. Like, this is just something I really needed right now." And so ever since then, I've been playing on the youth band, and I've been a part of it, and it's been great. But this last year, we just kind of started something new. We started going through these devotionals, one God, one plan, one life. And after youth group, we split up into small groups, and so it was like freshmen, sophomores, junior, seniors. And so Andy was with the junior and senior guys, and so we'd read 7 days, and then he would pick someone or ask for volunteers for who would want to lead, and just pick kind of a day that spoke to them that week in their reading, and then just kind of talk about it and stuff like that. And it was a really cool experience because a lot of the guys, like, we would just talk and stuff, and it wasn't just read and then, okay, see you guys next week. But it was like we'd talk about things, and we'd have like really good conversations, and it was really good. And so actually one thing I was reading just on my own December 30th, and this kind of goes with what Andy was talking about. So when he told me that, and he was like, all right, we kind of met at Cafe Marie, and he was like, this is my talk and stuff. I was like, perfect, like this is something I just read, and I'd really like to share it. So it said in Ecclesiastes 3:1, it says, to everything there is a season, a time for every purpose under heaven. And it really spoke to me because there's a lot of times where we're going through things that we don't understand or that seem very troubling to us, and it seems like we may never get out of it, whether it's a family issue or work or school or relationships or whatever it is. A lot of times we go through these seasons, and it's just sometimes it feels like we can't get out of them. And so what this talks about is it's talking about seasons, and it says when it comes to the earth, we understand God's management strategy. Nature needs winter to rest and spring to awaken. We don't dash into underground shelters at the sight of spring's tree buds. Earthly seasons don't upset us, but unexpected personal ones certainly do. The move to a new city, the breakup you never saw coming. And it says, are you on the eve of change? Do you find yourself looking into a new chapter? And I'm not going to read it all, but essentially what it goes on to say is it's saying, we all go through seasons. Every one of us has gone through seasons, whether it's a good season, whether it's a bad season. And what to remember is that the season does pass. If we lean on God, the season passes a lot easier than if we don't lean on God. We try to handle things on our own, and things don't always turn out how we want it. But it's saying through all seasons, lean on God, not just the bad ones. I mean, the bad ones, we tend to notice it more, like Andy was saying, but if we start in the seasons that are the good seasons, and we keep going through that, when it comes to the bad season, like he said, we'll be prepared, and we'll be ready, and the season won't seem so bad. So it's just, when there's seasons, whether it's a bad season, whether it's a good season, we need to know that we are not alone, and to lean on God in whatever season you're going through. So that was something that kind of really came out to me, and thank you.
Thanks, buddy. Some things are said better by other people, I think. I mean, that's truly what is being said here by Solomon, is simpletons, don't turn away from me. Read my word. Get to know my plan for your life, and you won't notice the hard times when they come through the seasons. I want to turn now to James. I'm going to read from James chapter 3, verse 13. And James is Jesus' brother. And this is what he's claiming here, and this is also titled Genuine Wisdom. It says, if you are wise and understand God's ways, prove it by living an honorable life, doing works with humility that comes from wisdom. If you are wise and understand God's ways, if you know God's ways, if you know the Bible, if you know what God is asking you to do in your life, and I love how just matter-of-fact he is, then prove it. If you know what God's asking you to do, prove it. How do you prove it? By living an honorable life, doing good works with humility that comes from wisdom. I was actually happy to hear, I texted my dad yesterday that this story was not him, although it's still hilarious. Have you ever known someone who claimed to be wise but then acted foolishly? I mean, that's what James is saying here, right? Someone who claims to know the Bible but then does not live it out in their life. My dad and a friend of his, Sam, I'm assuming it's recently after watching Mary Poppins, thought that Sam could float off the roof while holding an umbrella, that it would work. which my dad said that Sam fell and broke both of his legs. But sometimes we act like that. Sometimes we do that. I mean, there's guys, I was sitting in the office after I texted my dad and laughing, because I'm sure at some point my dad and Sam knew this umbrella is not going to work to float me down to the ground like Mary Poppins. I hope at some point they thought that. But at some point they thought, this is kind of foolish, but I'm going to do it anyways. I'm willing to break both my legs. Sometimes we do that. Sometimes we grab the umbrella and we jump off the roof. We say, I know this is what God's asking me to do. I know he doesn't want me to do this, or he does want me to do this, but I'm going to grab this umbrella and I'm going to jump. Sometimes we do that, don't we? I mean, I'm just as guilty. Whether it be gossiping or jealousy or anger or rage or adultery or pornography, we are jumping off the roof with an umbrella. When we know what God's word is, and he asks us or calls us to do things, is for our betterment. And sometimes we still grab that umbrella and we jump. James is saying, let's not be hypocrites. Let's not say we're one thing and do another. When I started out, I said wisdom is taking that knowledge and applying it to your life. If we're going to live wisely for this next year, we need to, as it says in Proverbs, know the word that's shouting out to our lives. And then we need to prove it by living that honorable life, not by acting foolishly. I want to call up one more person to come and talk. This young man's name is Jack Bartek. I am very fortunate. I know Jack from football and from being in the youth. He's very talented. He's also one of those people that had no idea what he was going to write till this morning. But he let me read it over, and I'm blessed to know him, and I'm excited to hear what he has to say this morning. There's Carla right there.
It's a lot of people. Woo! Okay. I had to write my stuff down. My mind kind of wanders when I get in front of people, so it was bad. All right. So Andy approached me one day at football practice my junior year, and we began to talk with my involvement in my youth group at my church. I told him I hadn't really been going, and recently I lost the drive to attend. Being the person he is, he invited me to come to youth group that night here at Grace. A lot of my friends already attended Union, and I was instantly welcomed. After that night, I've been coming to Grace on Sunday nights for over a year and a half and playing in the praise band. I'm here today to talk about wisdom, and I know it's kind of ironic because I'm 17. I don't really know a whole lot. But wisdom is defined as the ability to think and act using knowledge, experience, understanding, and insight. In the Bible, James describes two types of wisdom. There's earthly and there's heavenly wisdom. Earthly wisdom is full of jealousy, and it's not a good thing to do. I'm losing where I'm thinking right now. But let's see. I've learned a lot about wisdom that comes from above, and I think the most important piece of wisdom I've obtained is taking the Word of God and applying it to my everyday life. In the past, reading a Bible was really a chore for me. I would read the text, and that was it. I had no idea what God wanted me to do with it. And then I realized I had to put my faith into motion. And then in chapter 2 of James, I love it. It says, "So also faith of itself, if it does not have works, is dead. So also faith of itself, if it does not have work, is dead." And I love that line because it reminds us all that having faith is not what God wants from us, but he wants us to live it out in our days through our words and our actions. I've gained the insight to put my faith into action. Coming to Union has taught me really how important prayer is in my faith. Andy explained prayer as having a casual conversation with a friend, like you're talking to someone. He said we should talk to God, not at him. And this is my honest opinion. I'm raised in a Catholic house. So when I was like the age of 12, I thought that I had to kneel down by my bed and pray with my eyes closed, or my prayers would just disintegrate and never get to the big man upstairs. So this was when Andy said this to me, it made praying so much easier because I would just, you can sit and just have a casual conversation, and that really builds the relationship with God. And it may seem like a simple thing, but it allowed for me to dive deeper into my faith by building a strong relationship. And I think it's teenagers, it's hard to view God as another person to talk to rather than just this divine being in the sky that we usually do. It's hard to look at teenagers and be like, all right, you need to talk to this thing that you can't see and, put faith in him and trust in him. But when you do, it's really cool the things you get out of it. And I was glad Andy taught me how to, just pray better and overall live a better Christian life. And it's been a privilege. I've known Andy from a lot of different ways in the community as a coach and as a mentor, and I'm really glad that he's taught me these things. Hopefully I can teach other people like he has me. So thank you.
Hello? Okay. I wanted to close, James, being the good brother that he is, goes on to paraphrase Jesus' Sermon on the Mount. It's Jesus' longest recorded sermon, which tells you what a good brother that he was, that he paid attention. But Jesus goes on to give some contradicting ways on how we should live our lives. And this is from Matthew chapter 5, verses 1 through 12. It says, "One day as he saw the crowds gathering, Jesus went up on the mountainside and sat down. His disciples gathered around him, and he began to teach them. God blesses those who are poor and realize their need for him, for the kingdom of heaven is theirs. God blesses those who mourn, for they'll be comforted. God blesses those who are humble, for they will inherit the whole earth. God blesses those who hunger and thirst for justice, for they'll be satisfied. God blesses those who are merciful, for they'll be shown mercy. God blesses those whose hearts are pure, for they will see God. God blesses those who work for peace, for they'll be called the children of God. God blesses those who are persecuted for doing right, for the kingdom of heaven is theirs. God blesses you when people mock you and persecute you and lie about you and say all sorts of evil things against you because you are my followers. Be happy about it. Be very glad, for a great reward awaits you in heaven. And remember, the ancient prophets were persecuted in the same way." What Jesus is saying here is, if you want to live for God, you must seem strange to the world. You need to look different. Give when others take, love when others hate, help when others abuse, and give up your rights to serve others. And it's what Jack mentioned earlier. It's the contrast between kingdom values, what is eternal, wisdom that lasts forever, versus wisdom that is temporary. The Beatitudes tell us how to be blessed by God. And blessed means we will experience joy and hope no matter what the outer circumstances are. I've truly been blessed to be a part of this church. And I've truly been blessed to be a part of this congregation and interact with all of you. But if we are truly all going to live wise this upcoming year, the things that we need to do first is to don't let pride stand in the way. The word is alive and it's shouting wisdom. Read about Christ's earthly ministry and then wisely apply it to your life. Hear the words of Jesus' brother James. Pray and read to understand God's ways, and then prove it by living an honorable life. And learn from the key lessons of the Beatitudes and be blessed by God. We should be strange and different. We should love when others hate. One of my favorite people is Coach John Wooden. I talk about him like I know him. I've read so many books. I just admire the man. And his dad, when he graduated, I believe it was junior high, his dad gave him the 7-point creed. Okay, everybody else, he said he was all upset. Everybody got jewelry and these nice gifts, and my dad gave me a list of 7 things to live by. And he was a little bitter about it at first. And it says, 1 is be true to yourself. 2 is read the good book, the Bible, every day. And it goes on for these 7 things that you should apply to your life if you truly want to be a wise living person. And so he read it from his wallet every day. He read it. He read that every day. And he made sure to try and follow those things. And one day a reporter asked him, "Why do you even read it every day? There's no way you could live up to all 7 of those things every day." And for me, this is a great picture of what the Christian life is, for me personally. Because I try my best to read this every day. And I know I'm going to fall short. But John Wooden's answer to the reporter was perfect. He said, "I'm not what I ought to be, and I'm not what I want to be, but every day I'm better than I used to be." You know, if we are going to be wise Christians, that has to be our goal. I'm not what I ought to be. I'm not what I want to be, but every day I'm better than I used to be. You know, we are going to pick this up and read this. There's going to be things we don't understand. There's going to be things where we're going to say, I don't know if I can do that. But if we strive every day to be better than the day we were before, we can accomplish it. One final thing I wanted to share, and this is the hardest thing for me to share. I've already shared with, I announced it to the youth, and I sat and talked with church council and with Dennis, and as I've sat and prayed and thought about how I can be wise over this next year and prioritizing my life, it's time for me to step down from my youth ministry role. It seems kind of funny to say that when I'm sitting here saying that you should be doing these things to apply it to your life, but Dean Wyrick actually said it to me best. He said, your first ministry is at home. And I've been torn. I leave the house with 2 boys dragging on my ankles, and they want me to stay. And it's God's plan for me to step down. And I think my wife's going to be happy to have me home too. I hope. But there are 2 young people who have been working with me, who I like to say I've been mentoring. Tiffany Howard and Vinny are going to be taking over my roles. Union's going to continue. Fun activities and everything is going to continue, and there's not going to be really any hiccup in the schedule other than that I'll be slowly kind of stepping down, and Tiffany is going to be taking over my role of teaching. She's going to be leading Union. She already does Sunday school, and Vinny's going to be picking up hours along with the youth. These are 2 people that I'm going to ask that you continue to pray for. You know, one of my biggest blessings is knowing that you've been praying for me. That, you know, I've gotten so many words of encouragement and so many people that have told me how fantastic things are here. Well, that's a result of all of you. That's a result of the prayers that have been, you know, prayed over me. And I would ask that as time moves on that we'd pray over Tiffany and Vinny and the things that they're going to do with the youth. These are 2 people that I admire and that I care about. So I also want to take this time to say thank you. Thank you for trusting me. Thank you for supporting me. Thank you for praying for me. Someone said to me, you're quitting the church? And I was like, no. I'm not quitting the church. All right? I have, you know, when I talked to church council, they said it, you know, just as I felt it, is I feel my role in ministry changing. I feel called to be involved in other people's lives. I feel called to be at home with my family. And I just know I'm going to truly be blessed just still being a part of this congregation and being in a church family with all of you. So, thank you.